In the immediate aftermath of the Time War, the future seemed bleak for the Daleks. Their entire force had amassed over Gallifrey for the final battle with the Time Lords at the conclusion of the war, including the flagship of the Dalek Emperor himself, and it was all seemingly destroyed in a moment following the fall of Arcadia and just as the Daleks were on the verge of taking the capital. As far as the rest of the universe was concerned, the Daleks were completely wiped out, and this belief was held by many civilizations throughout the universe for centuries. According to Captain Jack Harkness, the Daleks vanished out of time and space, though in terms of the conventional human timeline, this likely occurred at some point prior to the 51st century, though the exact dating is blurry, not least due to the fact that the Daleks had been travelling up and down the timeline of human history as well as their own for millennia. However, the Daleks were not completely wiped out at the conclusion of the Time War. Whilst the Doctor initially thought he had wiped out his entire species as well as the Daleks using a Time Lord superweapon, thereby eliminating any possibility of survivors from either side, he was astonished to discover that several Daleks had escaped the war. This is because of the fact that, due to interference from the Doctor's later incarnations aiding the War Doctor, Gallifrey was not actually destroyed, it was simply displaced in time and space, and the Daleks had been wiped out by their own crossfire as the fleets surrounding the planet were caught off guard and destroyed by their own final barrage. The Doctor, however, did not discover this until reliving those events as the 11th Doctor, due to the fact that multiple incarnations of a Time Lord cannot retain memories of meeting each other until they experience those events as the older participants. However, this meant that many Daleks actually survived the war. Some singular Dalek survivors were sent hurtling back in time and crashed on Earth, but these were later found and dealt with. One of these units, the Metaltron, was the first Dalek survivor that the Doctor encountered after the war. The Doctor later discovered that the Emperor Dalek had survived, likely due to the fact that his flagship was larger and more heavily armoured than the standard Dalek ships, though it had been heavily damaged and fell through time, ending up in the dark space between solar systems. The Emperor slowly rebuilt his forces by hijacking various systems of Earth and harvesting human DNA to use to grow new Daleks. Despite not being pure, these Daleks were blessed by the Emperor, who at this point had been driven insane by the loss of its species and began referring to itself as the god of all Daleks, arguing that the Daleks he had created were pure because he had reached into the dirt and made new life. However, these Daleks seethed with self-hatred and were driven by a fervent cultish zealotry instilled in them by the Emperor. These Daleks laid waste to Earth in the year 200-100. At this point, humanity had not seen Daleks for thousands of years, with many believing them to be a myth, and so they were ill prepared for the Dalek attack. However, the Doctor's companion Rose intervened by looking into the heart of the TARDIS. She became the Bad Wolf entity, and using her power over life and death, Rose resurrected the exterminated Captain Jack Harkness, granting him immortality, and disintegrated the Dalek army and the Emperor. Whilst there appeared to be few, if any, Dalek survivors in the conventional universe, the Dalek race had an ace up their sleeve, the Cult of Skaro. These 4 Daleks had been hiding outside the universe in a void ship since the start of the Time War, and emerged above London at the headquarters of the Torchwood Institute, bringing a Time Lord craft containing thousands of battle-ready Daleks who laid waste to Earth, and almost completely wiped out an army of invading Cybermen in the process. The leader of the cult, Dalek Sek, expressed rage at the fact that Rose had killed the Dalek Emperor, and appeared confident that the army he had brought with him would restore the Dalek Empire. However, the Doctor was able to use the tear in reality left in the wake of the Daleks' void ship to draw the Daleks back into the void, halting their invasion and forcing the cult to escape using an emergency temporal shift. The cult members arrived in New York in 1930, low on power and without their army. Deducing that they were the last 4 Daleks in existence, the cult established a base in the sewers beneath the city, and began to perform experiments to try to create more Daleks, such as growing new embryos. However, these experiments failed, and Dalek Sek eventually reached the conclusion that the Daleks needed to adapt in order to survive. He created a plan to fuse Dalek and human DNA to create a new species, and even went as far as to hybridize himself with a human in order to create the genetic template. In the process, Sek took on human emotions, and while the Doctor was initially intent on stopping Sek from creating his new army, he eventually realised that Sek could actually be a force for good, and aided the Daleks in their plan. Unfortunately, Sek was betrayed by the other cult members, Dalek Khan, Dalek Thay and Dalek Jast, who maintained that Daleks must remain pure, and derailed the experiment, creating an army of humanoids with Dalek minds. Sek sacrificed himself to save the Doctor, who broke the other hybrids free of Dalek control, allowing them free will. They turned on the Daleks when one of their own was exterminated, and Thay and Jast were destroyed in the resulting firefight. However, Dalek Khan destroyed all the hybrids and later escaped using an emergency temporal shift. This shift took Khan back into the Time War, driving him insane in the process. but he was able to rescue the Daleks' creator Davros from his death during the first year of the conflict. Davros rebuilt the Dalek Empire from scratch, hiding out in the Medusa Cascade, and plotted to destroy the entire universe using a reality bomb, stealing Earth and many other planets to use as part of a great planetary engine to power the device. However, Khan had secretly turned against the Daleks and manipulated events so that the Doctor and his companions would eventually defeat them. Khan and Davros were left in the burning crucible, though one Dalek ship was able to escape the destruction of their fleet, falling back in time to the Second World War in 1941. Only 3 Daleks survived, and they set to work establishing a new race of Daleks using a progenitor, a device which supposedly contained pure Dalek DNA. The progenitor didn't recognise these Daleks as pure, likely because they had been grown from cells of Davros' body, but they used the testimony of the Doctor to activate the progenitor, which created a new race of Daleks called the New Dalek Paradigm. The paradigm exterminated the 3 Dalek survivors, deeming them impure, but did later go on to restore the Dalek race to the universe. Despite several false starts, the Daleks had finally managed to bounce back from the brink of extinction.